to me, nymph fishing is probably, I know a lot of people think it's a mindless bobber chase or something. And I suppose you could make it that, but really to me it's about the most challenging way to fish there is, because it's all invisible. There's nothing, you know, yeah, if you went out and throw a bobber and just let it, you know, chase it down the river doing the mindless bobber dance, I suppose it'd be pretty boring. But when you start breaking down the fact that everything's underwater, I mean, you have to visualize everything. That's what makes it so intense. You know, when you're fishing a dry fly, you know you're always thinking of that fish coming underneath your fly and inspecting it, but when it's underwater, the most subtle of things that you do can make the biggest difference on earth. I mean, that's what makes it so challenging, and that's why we're showing so many different styles and ways to fish. I mean, to me, understanding subsurface currents and subsurface hydraulics that are affecting the way your fly's going back and forth, I mean, to me, that's like the ultimate challenge. You get to see underwater, not physically, but you have to visualize that underwater. That's what makes it so incredibly challenging if you'll let it. I had a buddy tell me that I have a tendency to overcomplicate this stuff, and I disagree completely. I mean, what I'm doing is every day I'm trying to figure something different out. I'm, you know, not just throwing out a bobber and watching it go. Everything's about a little micro drift. What we can change this, change that. You start figuring out all these different ways to get the fish to respond. And to me, that's what it's all about. I mean, if I had to go out and just throw a dry fly all day and hope them to come up, I'd go out of my mind. I mean, this way I get to follow the fish's feeding habits as opposed to going out and just throwing out the same thing over and over again. And so to me, it makes it just, I love that, almost overcomplicating it, not completely, but making it more exciting, you know, making it more challenging. And that's what it's all about, is just learning new ways to do the same, you know, the same thing we're always doing, just fishing. It's all about fishing. I don't understand people that get their old panties in a wad because, oh, he's fishing dry flies or he's fishing nymphs. And I mean, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make you a subspecies. It just makes you more aware. And I'm positive if more people with nymph fish learn different styles, high sticking, naked nymphing, any possible way, it makes them a better angler all around. It doesn't just make them a better nymph fisherman or streamer or dry. I mean, once you figure one out, figure the next one out. It'll enhance everything you do as an angler. The more arrows in the quiver, the better you are. When it comes to perfect seam pocket runs, this one's about as good as it gets. It's pretty simple to read. We're gonna go through a whole bunch of stuff as we go up, but it's really pretty simple. I've got just the most basic system on here. I've got one boulder, but what you'll see as I go up here is it's just a soft seam meeting that really fast water. It's really as basic as it gets right here. But I'm gonna have a couple convergent seams behind this boulder when I get up a little higher. But what you're looking at right here is just a perfect seam for nymph fishing. I've got a bunch of deep boulders. I'm going from 2 foot to maybe 3.5 foot. So I've got just a real simple system on. I got one split shot. I got a 2-fly rig on right here. I'm using the fly line indicator style. I don't have an indicator on like a bobber because I don't really need it here. I got nice flat water. This is my nymph taper line, the Scientific Angler's indicator nymph line. And it's got the red tip up here, so the guys that don't like to fish indicators but want something, that's great, they can see it. And then what I've got is 2 foot below that, I got a piece of cord 13 weight fly line. It's 13 weight cord fly line. And you can see I put a knot here to keep that from sliding down on this one. I've got one on each end, just a little overhand knot. It won't hurt you won't break your line. And you see I've got them about 2 foot apart, and I've got this one about 2 foot from my fly line. These are not, when you first start, this is not the easiest system. It's just what I like to do. When we go down below, I'm gonna put different speeds of water, and where I want a little, and this is a perfect run for this because it's not choppy and big. I mean, I can see this forever, but these don't float. They go underwater. It's a little bit more like tight liner or check nymphing where you're just dragging the fly or leading the fly, not dragging it. But I can see them, and I like it because it's they'll often just line up just a little bit. It's not a they take off running. You'll see them just barely move. But this is such an easy slick to fish. It's just it's so perfect. I don't need to have a big indicator that sits there and floats on top. I can see this, and I don't care if this sinks. That thing goes underwater a foot, I can still see it. Water's nice and clear. And then below that, if I don't step on it, below that is my split shot, and it's about 4, almost 5 foot from my indicator. All right? The water's 3 foot basically, and I want to go 1.5 to 2 times the depth of the water, almost always, from my split shot to any indicator I use. That's just a rule of thumb. I'll reiterate that over and over and over. If I can, I want to be 1.5 times, because the closer it is to the split shot, the closer the indicator is to the split shot, the quicker I pick up that detection that fish has picked up my fly. The further it is away, the more chance it could pick it up and you miss it. But this is a pretty deep run, about 3.5 feet. The simplest rig you can possibly use. I got a 2-fly rig on. The first fly, I got a split shot up here. My first fly is a little midge imitation, and I'm going eye to eye, meaning I tied both pieces out of the eye of the hook. Nothing complicated about it. Really doesn't tangle hardly at all this way. And then there's caddis coming off pretty hard, so I've got a little hydropsyche caddis on here. This is a pretty dark one. There's quite a few bugs up, so I'm gonna end up probably going crystal because it's so bright. That's a good point. I want you to understand that too, because you'll see a lot of people do this backwards. If it's a dark day, they'll put crystal on or something really bright, like they're gonna have to get the fish's attention. I do just the opposite. If it's a bright day, I put on a bright crystally fly. If it's a dark day, I start dark with the fly. Usually, especially in the Rocky Mountains where you got a lot of whitefish, you put crystal on in a cloudy day, you'll be the whitefish god. There's no future in that. So, I got the other thing that when you come up to a run like this, one of the most telltale signs you're gonna see, and as you look right here, you see those bubbles of foam? That foam bubble is always telling you that that's the seam. It's telling you where 2 seams are coming together, 2 speeds of current, and the foam is almost always an indicator that that's the primary seam. As people push them out, they usually just go a little bit deeper on the sides of them. But when you walk up, look for those foam lines. It's gonna tell you where the seams are converging. But when you've got a boulder like right here, you're gonna have basically 3 seams. You have the seam coming around each side of it as the boulder parts the water. So you're gonna wanna concentrate on each side of that, because that middle seam is that's the soft part between it. Whenever you look any boulder anywhere, that's what's gonna be there. That boulder, as the water comes around and swirls, pushes the water forward right behind the rock. I've got a 9-foot leader on here. It's all 4X fluoro. I'm gonna be able to fish up this side, and that's kind of a personal choice, whether you wanna fish the seam all the way up one side or you wanna keep putting weight on and kind of moving back and forth in it. I like to just work the thing from this side as much as I can. Don't just run up to the sweet spot. You might learn something. You might figure out that there's a whole bunch of fish down below here. If you always go to the sweet spot, you might miss the new sweet spot. So I'm gonna start back here, always keeping a tight line. You'll notice that I never ever have slack in there if I can help it. Every rule gets broken, obviously. You'll hear me talking constantly about angler position. You have to optimize where you stand and cast, but you don't always get the opportunity to I like to be sideways to the fish. But in this situation, sun coming over my back, casting a shadow that way, I'm going to have to fish from a little bit below it. So I'm going to start down here. I'm going to move up just a little bit because I want to be in a little bit more control. And that's a ton of it right there. You have to be in control of your line. Doesn't matter if you can cast up there. If you cast 30 feet up there, all those convergent seams doing this, pulling on your line, you're never going to fish the fly. You fish it slowly, you move up here. I want a little bit better angle on that because as you can see behind that boulder, if I go right across it, my line goes tight. Watch what happens if I throw across this. There's going to be two different seams. See how that line right there at the end of my tip got pulled really fast? See how that other stuff's sitting there? It's nothing seam. It's nothing current. So I'm going to move up here and I'm going to high stick this, meaning I'm going to keep my line off the water as much as I can so it can go through that outside current. That's high sticking in a nutshell, keeping your line off the water so those convergent seams don't get a hold of it and drag your fly unnaturally, especially on the first one. Whoa, and I miss a fish. Did you see that? I missed that fish. I was watching that. As soon as I put the tension on, boom, I saw him separate. And there was hardly a movement to that bottom one. It just went a little bit straighter. A couple things that no matter how or where you're fishing, rod angle is absolutely critical. If you throw your line up here and stand here like this, and you just pick your rod up and you don't lead that line, you're going to create drag on the fly immediately. You have to follow, when your line hits the water, you always try to keep your rod tip pointed above your indicators. All right, they're going downstream. You notice I'm turning with them, and I'm always, see my rod tip, it's above my indicators. They're not up here. If I put my line up here, if I throw it up here and just do a mend and stand here like this, one, I got all this slack down there, and two, the flies are getting dragged unnaturally. They're starting to do an arc. So you always keep your rod tip under or above your indicator if you can, just like this. I mean, without, oh, how do you like that, Spanky? Hey, that looks like a whitey. The other fish. And the other thing that rod angles do for you is that you're always in position to strike. I watch people do this all the time. They'll throw a big mend and they'll kind of stand there and their line's up here. And they get a hit and they go like that, but they're never once were they in position. Even if they get the fish, rod's over here, they've totally got out of control. By constantly thinking about keeping your line, your rod tip just downstream of your line, it gives you the ability, like right there, I just touch it, I'm in control, my hands are always down here. Even with high sticking, it's rare that you'll see, if you get your arms way up like this, and there's places where it's gonna have to happen because you're in super fast water. This isn't one of them. But for the most part, if you can keep your rod down, somewhere around your chest, and just let that rod, I mean, we're running 10-foot rods, so we've got a lot of that ability to manipulate the line like this, and we don't have to be holding our arms way up in the air. That's the whole idea of using the longer rods. You have to keep this, always keeping the tension if you can't. And when I say tension, I mean, I want you to be as close to pulling that indicator as possible without physically pulling the indicator. So you're constantly in tension. You're not just throwing it out and hoping. You've got to always have that perfect amount of tension, where it's always tight, your rod's in front of it, you're going like this, it's not pulling the indicator, but it's not letting it do its own thing. You've got to direct that indicator. I'm going to go up just a little ways here, and before I go anywhere, because I have not cast up there, I'm going to throw a couple casts through there just to see if before I spook it, as soon as I walk up there, any fish that are close are going to move out into that deeper water. So before you do anything, give it a handful. I'm just going to shotgun it, meaning I'm going to hit a whole bunch of places and miss that one right there. When you look at a boulder, the sweet spot's down here. But if you've got a good emergence, there's what's called the cushion. That's right in front of the rock, all right? I don't find it to be that productive unless there's a lot of insect activity. But every once in a while, you got a lot of caddis or whatever's coming off. That's a soft, because the rock's sitting here like this, the water's hitting it. It actually backs the water up right there. Makes a pretty negative current. So they don't have a lot of pressure pushing them back. And you get a heavy emergence, you'll see fish riding that cushion. So when you walk up here, and I've got caddis popping around me right now, I'm gonna drop one right in front of it. Okay, I'm gonna move up into here. We fished this little cushion, and now I'm getting up to where the water's getting a little deeper out there. I've made a half a dozen casts through this. And this is where, all right, I'm not touching bottom. I keep missing bottom. I throw a little bit further up. And that's one way to get a little deeper, is just throw further up. But I haven't touched bottom once. That tells me that I'm probably 6 inches from where I need to be there. I'm gonna fish this inside with a single split shot. And before I move up too far, I'll fish this skinny stuff. Then I'm gonna repeat the whole thing. Whoa! Incoming. He acts like he is somebody. Pretty little fish. You know, you don't want it to drag, you just want it to get down and tap bottom. And that's really the key to getting, you know, your fish, is to have the perfect amount of split shot. So I'm gonna put one more shot on. And before I move, because I just went through there, had a couple little fish in there. Touch it. So I added another split shot. And one there, I touched bottom first cast. That's just what I wanted to do. I was in a little tight. First cast, I touched bottom. And now I know I'm fishing. For me, that's a long cast right there. I've got, you know, maybe 20 feet of line out, and I can just roll cast it with ease. That's what these rods are made to do. Just flick it out there. And a lot of it's just repetitive casting, because as much as you learn to read the water, you still don't know if you caught a hydraulic underwater and it lifted your line up. So generally you give at least a half a dozen to every spot, because you don't really know as much as you'd like to be able to. Is I'm not having to mend my line much because I'm going straight upstream. The only time you'll see me mend it is to get it. I'm trying to fish seams down at myself. I've started in close and I'm straight down. Now there's no reason for me to mend. Line's coming right at me. I don't have to mend here at all. I just keep tension on the line so I know if I'm getting a hit. The only time I need to mend is when I go out there and I want the line to track down a particular seam. I'm looking at this, breaking it into like 4 different seams. The one right in front of me, this maybe 2 foot out, that soft water one. If I throw right straight across, there's a chance I'm gonna get drag on my line over here. And so the only mend I have to do is just get it over there a little bit so I can have a nice straight track coming down that outside seam. When you do that mend, I'll show you right now. I'm throwing into another current. When I do that mend, don't let it get that right there in it. That big big C in my line, you have to keep up with that. You can't let that belly form in there, else it'll just start dragging your flies. You throw it like this and then you bring your rod back. Obviously you're making this big loop, it's just pulling the flies off bottom. I'm moving up so I don't have to do as much. I can just high stick it right now. I'm up high enough that I can keep my rod I can let the rod do all the work. I start low, gets down close, I just pick my rod up. I'm in nice control. I still run the same seam. The beauty of a 10-foot rod. I think I finally used this thing up, because I know there's at least one good fish in here. Well, actually, I know there's a lot more, but they're not cooperating. But really, there's not much to it. We're doing pretty much straight upstream, a little bit of mend when we were fishing that outside, but this is pretty much straight up, and it's a pretty common type of pool.